Welcome to Raise It Up with me, Danny Kagan, entrepreneur, mom of two, and your host. This is the place for real, no BS conversations about growth with ambitious women, mothers, and entrepreneurs who are building businesses while raising families. Together, we're redefining what peak performance looks like and reshaping modern motherhood. From parenting and personal growth to business and beyond, we're diving in with practical insights, empowering takeaways, and truly inspiring conversations. I am so excited that you're here. Let's go. I have to pause the episode for a second to tell you about Maeve and Shay, the best slippers on the planet. Not only are they podiatrist approved, but they're also super chic and insanely versatile. Like you can actually wear them outside of the house and still look cute. And here's a little secret, I designed these myself. Yep. So every time you gift a pair to that special woman in your life, your mom, your sister, your bestie, just know that it's woman-owned and ethically made. So go treat yourself or someone you love. Head to maeveandshay.com. That's Shay like home in French, C-H-E-Z, as my American friends say, and get 10% off your first pair with the code RAISEITUP. That's maeveandshay.com. Use the code RAISEITUP. Mother's Day only comes once a year. I don't know why. But the real work of motherhood, that's every single day. The messy, the beautiful, the exhausting, the hilarious, the heart-cracking reality of it. And today I'm bringing together three powerhouse women who refuse to pretend otherwise. Three moms who have, in their own ways, made it their mission to show up honestly for their kids, for their communities, and for every woman who's ever needed to hear, you are not alone in this. We have Libby Ward, author and speaker who's built a movement of telling the truth online. Sangita Patel, Canadian TV personality who has balanced a high-profile career while raising two daughters and navigating what it means to be a South Asian woman in the spotlight and a cancer diagnosis. And Julie Cole, mom of six, yes, you heard right, six, who turned chaos, a child's autism diagnosis, and a basement startup into a multi-million-dollar empire, all while holding it together with humor and zero apology. Libby, Sangita, Julie, welcome to the Raise It Up podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
What a great intro.
Right?
The power of motherhood, right? That's great. Thank you, Danny, for having us.
I'm
Thanks for having
so
us.
grateful to have you guys. I want to just jump right in. I feel like the raw, unfiltered conversation is the best kind because we just do it all as moms and we make it look amazing. But what I love about you guys is you really like show authentically what's happening in your lives as well, and you speak about it. And for all like the very new moms out there, I'm kind of curious to know for you, for each of you, and you'll all answer this question. When you became a mother, what was one of like the biggest lies that you were sold about, and what it would look like and feel like to be a mother? Libby, I'll come to you first.
Okay, so I feel like I was given this impression that I would get this natural mother instinct, that I would just know what to do organically. At the moment the baby was placed on my chest, I would just know what to do. I don't know if that was the biggest lie, but that was one of the big lies that I feel like I was told, that I believed. And the truth is that it was really hard, and the love was visceral. Like, I was obsessed with my baby the moment she was born, and it was a more immediate and bigger love than I've ever felt for anything in my life. But the practicalities of how do I do this, what is the next right step, how do I trust myself, that wasn't there, and it was really hard to navigate.
Can I just tell you, it's so refreshing to hear this. Like, also, like when they put the baby on my chest, I was like, who does this look like? This doesn't even look like mine. I
Yeah.
don't even, that feeling, right? Like, that's so,
Yeah,
I really feel like that hard with you. Sangita,
yeah.
what about
Well, could
you?
I
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so my daughter was admitted to the hospital 2 weeks after she was born with an infection in her shoulder bone. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. But when we got to the hospital, they were, doing all these different tests and sending her for MRIs and X-rays, and she was on an IV drip, and we were at a children's hospital where there was a lot of different residents coming in to like ask me the same questions over and over and over again. And I just remember them saying to me, hey, like, you're her mom, like, you know best, and thinking, I am just a 26-year-old girl who popped out a baby 2 weeks ago. Like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what happened. Like, this baby is mine and you're trusting me with her, but no, I don't know what's best. It's just like, gosh, like how every mother has had a similar experience to that, where it's like, oh, you know what's best, and it's like, I actually am not sure what I should be doing right now.
That's
Yeah, we
true.
feel that. Yeah. Sangita, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel everything Libby's saying, but also for me, it was the change in relationships. When I first had my child, you thought this bonding with your husband was going to get stronger, but there was this place you go where you have to make, and your child becomes your priority. Everything around you, it's all about your child. And I remember going through this phase of kind of letting not my husband go, but this relationship where we're just like this, to having this child between us. And that's probably one of the lies. Like, you do come closer, but there are so many different emotions that you go through with your partner when you have a child. And as your child gets older, you do bond differently and it becomes this new relationship. So that was something very new to me because we were young. I was 27. My husband was 35, 32 at the time. And we had to go through that. And that was a learning curve for me. But now we're like in our honeymoon phase again after 26 years. So like that's something that really surprised me.
Okay, so there's something exciting on the other side, like
Oh
after all
yeah.
the resentment with your husband
Uh,
for all
don't
the
look at me, don't touch me. Like, all you go through all of that. But like, where was that button? It took a while to get back to that space, but damn, I missed the sex in the beginning. But that's part of the process. So that was a lie that I learned.
Mhm. Yep, I feel you hard on that one. Julie, what was like the lie for you that you were told
Okay.
about motherhood?
Okay, not so much lies, but I guess my couple of surprises. I had like what Libby had, which was when I had my baby, I did have that immediate like love. Like I have felt nothing like it before. All of a sudden, I'm like, I only like you people. Like this is actually, I didn't even know that kind of existed. And I always tell moms, like, if that doesn't happen for you right away, that's okay. But it really hit me hard. I was just like so in love, and it makes you just so almost hyper focused. So I think it's something to watch for. I think the other thing too is that when you get home, I'll never forget, like Daddy and I just put like the bucket car seat on and we looked at each other, we're like, it's never leaving. Like suddenly the reality of it's never, like now we've got it forever. Like this baby's staying. That's when kind of the reality hit. But I suppose the real truth is nobody told me that you can get pregnant while you're breastfeeding. And I was pregnant within 3 months of having my first baby. Now I did actually I know, I did actually miscarry that baby, but then I was so sad that I immediately got pregnant. So my first two were 15 months apart and I had a miscarriage in between.
Julie,
But
same thing happened to me. And I
really,
miscarriage too. Yeah, I was at 5.5 months in and I was like, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. So yeah, same thing. Yeah, that's so funny you said that.
yeah. And I mean, I found out
Yeah.
as it turned out, my milk supply was crap and all my
Yeah.
babies reached failure to thrive. So I probably wasn't producing enough milk to stop myself from getting pregnant, but who knew?
Crazy. Honestly, like I think that is so helpful though for like people stepping into motherhood to hear like all of your stories and like what you experienced in those early years because I do think it's very like I don't know about you guys, but especially with the age of social media, it's very hyper focused on like beauty and like pregnancy being beautiful and like those early months being beautiful. And I think like those first 100 days for me were hell. And I think I was told for me that like you're gonna have this again, that overwhelming like love and it trumps everything, but like the sleepless nights and everything at that first 100 days was so hard and no one told me about it. Like I felt like no one around me gave me that information that it's really hard at the beginning. And I'm
Yeah.
someone who loves my sleep a lot. So like having sleepless nights was tragic. Like it was so brutal for me. And so thank you for sharing that because I feel like we're not like trying to scare people and instill fear. We're just it's all about honesty. And speaking of which, so Libby's just come out with her incredible book, which is called Honest Motherhood. I mean, it's very fitting for Mother's Day. Um, okay, so let me ask you this, Libby. I mean, you describe yourself as bringing radical honesty to motherhood, but when you first started speaking online, were you scared? Like, what did you think would happen when you were gonna do this and speak honestly?
Well, I mean, I joined TikTok in 2020 when the pandemic started, when a lot of millennials did. And I, at that time, to give you backstory, I wasn't really being honest with myself and with the other moms and people in my life up until that point, really. I had been in therapy for a few years. I was struggling with depression. I was struggling with overwhelm and burnout and being the default parent. But I, sort of kept a lot of the real things I was struggling with to myself because I felt a lot of shame around it. And I think that's the reason why a lot of moms don't really say the hard things out loud because we can be made to feel like if you don't love every moment, then you don't love your children. Or if you have a hard time, then maybe you're not a good mom. And so I didn't really share it out loud. And when I joined TikTok, I thought, well, here's a great place for me to share that no one will see that my friends and family aren't going to see it.
Touche.
I know my neighbors aren't going to see it. These just like random numbers on the internet don't really matter. I mean, I didn't start sharing to grow a following either. I had never heard of a content creator or an influencer. I didn't really know what that was. I was just making content and having fun. I was making relatable content, but then heartfelt content. And I was just enjoying connecting with other moms and talking about things that no one ever really seemed to talk about in real life. And a lot of people did find me, as it turns out. And so I feel like I had this like false confidence or like this like naivety around the power of the internet and the power of social media. And I think that insulated me for a while from feeling a lot of fear because people ask me all the time, like, how did you just say the thing? And I think because I was kind of dissociated from reality, I'm like, well, I could just say it because I'm just saying it into the abyss. And over time, when I saw not only that I was not the only one, but that really a lot of my experiences were quite common. That just gave me the confidence to say more things out loud and also in my real life because I was like, oh, I'm not crazy for having these experiences. They're actually quite normal and quite common. And so, yeah, I don't know that it was an act of bravery at first. It became an act of bravery once the hard things started, the trolls and the different things came along. But at first, it was just almost like a freedom, like an exhilaration to have a place to share the things that no one was really talking about and realize that actually these conversations are really needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Sangita, for you, I mean, you're also out there, as a TV personality and in media. Like how is going into this world as a mother, like how did that shape you? You're also really ambitious and you want to build your career, but you also like have these two young kids. So how did you manage all of that together?
That's a really good question because I'm gonna actually say it was my husband and I are best friends, and we support each other on all of our dreams. Whatever he wants to do, I'm there for him. Whatever I want to do, he's there for me, and we talk it through. And being in the light of television, you do have to be careful what you put out there about your kids. And so we discussed that as I was going through the process when I joined Instagram, when I joined social media, even when I'm on ET Canada, was I going to put my kids out there? And it came to a point where my kids were older. So I never really shared when they were really young, but to the point where they can have a discussion with me about the things I was actually taking photos of and videos. And one year, this is really funny, they were on ET Canada and they wrote up a contract saying, I get paid if I'm on television or on your social media. And I'm like, well. And I'm like, I raised two really confident girls and I should give myself a pat on the back. And so they tell me how much I can put on. They control what I put on. I always make sure they're happy with it. My daughter's 19 now, my other daughter's 16. And so it's a conversation. I think it's really important to put them in the conversation of what I'm doing for social media. And it does come down to branding, it does come down to marketing, it comes down all of that. But it's a discussion. It's not my decision. It's a decision that we have to make all together. So that's how I kind of control what's out there when it comes to my kids. And if they say no, then it's a no. And then we move on and come up with another idea. But the idea of them making a contract and getting paid, now they seem a little bit more enticed. to be on my social media page. So
Oh, funny. It's so
it's
funny because I think
yeah.
about, like, I think the ages our kids are, it was different then
Yeah.
because I was like one of the, original mom bloggers back, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
I was blogging and, it was very much, I did post pictures of my kids. I did like talk about them. I remember, and like part of it for me, there were two reasons. One, loved writing. Two, with Mabel's Labels, we were about letting people in. We were about
Yeah.
making those connections. Like people wanted, and moms still want to feel connected to the brands they buy from. They don't want to buy from a nameless, faceless brand. They want to buy from Julie, who also was trying to get through the day without smelling like baby vomit. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't blogging about labels. I was blogging about, being an autism mom, having a ton of kids, like all the things. And I found that it was almost like cheaper than there because it allowed me to see the humor in things. Like I remember one time I had five of them vomiting at the very same time. And like, so I was just like, I put all their Mabel's Labels on all their individual puke buckets and like, let's go. And I was like, this is hilarious. Like, how many people have five kids vomiting at the same time? And I mean, I didn't have a single one of them miss a bucket. And I was so proud of myself. But I'm the kind of mom, like my kid says, oh, I've got a hangnail. And I'm like, you'll need a bucket for that.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to see the humor. It allowed us to let our customers in and kind of behind the scenes. And certainly when they got to a certain age, then there were more conversations around consent. But that really wasn't happening back in those days. Because remember, my kids, like
Mhm.
my youngest is about to turn 17. So we were like, there were times I can remember saying to my kids, they're like, oh, we don't want to be on that TV or we don't want to have that photo in Today's Parent. I'd be like, do you like the free trips we get to Disney? Do you like, because every once in a while, I need you to just smile for the camera so that we can get that free beaches trip to Turks and Caicos. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, fair trade, fair trade. And it wasn't much, but there were times where I'm like, guys, I need your help here if you want to, like, it's give and take. But certainly, it gets to the point now, like I don't post, or for a long time, I haven't posted anything without their consent. And honestly, they're
Mhm.
big. Nobody really cares.
Yeah, the conversation does definitely change. Yeah, you're right. Like it's true. Like you're getting this, you're getting that. There's a trade-off. So let's
Right?
see. Let's do. It's business. It's definitely business.
I think that's a big part of it too, like looking at the social media angle from like it's a business, and like teaching your kids that like we're using this as like a tool to leverage, and it's not just like sitting and scrolling and like looking at other people's stuff. It's like we can be the creators and we can create the content and we can actually like
Yeah.
sustain our lives from this, and it can be a part of stories, and also like share vulnerably about the things that are happening in our lives, like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And Julie,
It's
for
also
you,
safety, right? I was gonna say it's
yes.
also safety. Like I remember my kids were fairly young and they were buying Colonel's popcorn. I'm not too far away and people came up to them because they recognized them. And that also gave me a bit of an alert of like, how do I put the kids on social media? So yeah, it's also that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
a
I
big
think
part of
also
it.
like one of the reasons I like there's a lot of reasons I don't share my kids like names or faces online, but one of them is that I share a lot of the hard parts that other moms don't say out loud, right? So it's not like I do obviously share my Disney trips and like the fun things, but I share a lot of like the dark thoughts that I have that other people don't say out loud and a lot of the difficult things that moms go through. And I think just making sure that my kids' faces and their identity isn't attached to that in a way that they are going to be always recognized when we go out in public is just really, and their safety and things like that is really
Yeah, yeah.
important to me. Because I mean, even it's just me that gets recognized right now, but they're with me, right? And so they see that and they experience that. And, we've had a lot of conversations about it. Like my 12-year-old, she begs to like do videos with me. Like she wants to do them so badly. I'm like sometime soon, maybe you still don't quite understand. So, we'll see. And I always say to people, like,
Hmm.
to each their own. I don't judge anybody for like what they show or don't show, but I think just for me, like sharing so much of the hard stuff, I'm like so extra careful about that. And we all just do
Yeah.
what works for us.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And every family has to make these decisions. Like these are family decisions you need to make
Hmm.
and talk to your partners and figure out like, is this something we're doing or not? And like Sangita, what you were saying earlier, like kind of like ongoing
Yeah.
conversations. Like things
Yeah.
can change, things will change.
Yeah.
Like how do we have this conversation now that the kids are older
Hmm.
or younger, or
And
like
also the
that's a
tools
yeah.
change, right? Like back in my day, I wasn't worried about people using my kids' images and using AI. I mean, I was like, basically, it's not a safety issue. Who would want you people? God, they'd return
Hmm.
you quick, smart.
Yeah.
It's
But it's
true.
also, I think, as you build your social media, you also build a group of people that you trust, right? Like I feel I've created this incredible group of people on social media, especially on Instagram, and they've kind of seen my daughter grow. So they're kind of like, "Oh, this is so great. She's in university," and like it's a positive energy, so you know when it's the right
Hmm.
time to post as well. So it depends the storyline you have on your social, and I feel authentically shared
Right.
one of my daughters growing, and they all feel like they're part of her journey of getting to university. Hurrah! So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing too.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
true. And that's what community is, right? I feel that
Yeah,
hard. Like
yeah,
I have like our original customers, like they feel responsible for Mabel's Label success and they're not wrong,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Oh,
they
it's
also, they also feel responsible. Like they've watched the kids grow
yeah.
up and they have a sense of pride with it. And I love that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
I
feel
Mm-hmm.
think that's like
supported.
one of the most beautiful parts about what we do on social media is it's the community you create, like the authentic, real, like the people who feel a part of something. Like this last week, every single day, I either have people message me or when they run into me, they're like, "You must be exhausted. Like all of this is so much," because I'm on book tour right now. And I am like, not really. I am, but also I get so much like life in my bones from like meeting and connecting with real people and having this community. And it feels like when I open my DMs, when I open my comments, like you all have a stake in this. Like this happened because of you. You feel a part of this. You've been on the journey with me. You are, buying the book. You are, you've seen me in my darkest moments years ago, and now you're seeing this. And so when you bring people along on the journey, it really makes them feel a part of it. And it's one of the best parts about doing this is like those real actual connections you make and feeling like you are doing it together because you are. And it wouldn't happen
Absolutely.
without your audience.
Absolutely. And all four of us are very ambitious women, and, we want to build these like amazing lives for ourselves and also be amazing mothers. And I find like that's like a really hard thing to do and to marry those two things together.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm wondering from each of you, like even like Julie, you have six children while you're building a business, and one
Yeah.
of them has an autism diagnosis. Sayida, you are going through your cancer journey. Like Libby, you have like I mean, you've shared so much on social, which I love, but like so many dark moments of like throughout your motherhood journey. Like, how are you guys getting through those moments when you have like children, but you also want this career and you want to build something for yourself and make your own money, and you have dreams? How is this all working? Like,
How long do we have?
Yeah, I'm like, is it, well, how do we define working?
I
Right.
know.
How do we define
Yeah.
success? I mean, it's like just a constant battle. You're never winning it in every area of your life, ever. When I'm winning in one area, another area is falling apart. When I'm doing great here, this part's not really working out. And I think one of the myths of social media is that, that, or even in the world, is that as women, as people, like we can juggle all the things. And the truth is that sometimes you have to put some things down to juggle other things. And it's a constant, like balancing prioritization act. I mean, like I wouldn't be able to do what I do if my husband hasn't been the default parent for the last 6, 8 months. Like he does the meal planning, he goes grocery shopping, he cooks most of our meals, he folds the laundry. I didn't have to make him a list when I go on book tour. So having a supportive partner or like a support system makes a big difference. And also I mean, the irony of when I was writing my book, and I actually had some dark moments about this, is that I have not been present for my kids while I've been writing as much as I was before. And the irony of writing a book about, honest motherhood and being present with our children and the value of that while not being present because I'm writing my book. It did, like it stabbed me in the gut a few times. And I just had to remind myself, like, it's just a season. Like right now, is a season where I'm not as present. For the first 8 years, it was mostly me. After this, I'm gonna like lean into it more. And so I think it's just becoming okay with knowing that every feeling, every season isn't completely all encompassing. Like you can toggle and go back and forth and just yeah, you figure it out as you go along. But I don't know that I know one single female mom entrepreneur who's like, yeah, I'm good. Like everything's good. I
Definitely
don't know about you
not.
guys, but I don't.
But you know what? Like, in a way, I kind of felt okay about things because, but I think my thing was that I really just managed my expectations and I didn't like have high ones. Like, I think if you're going to have 6 kids and start a business, then, you just know that not everybody, we're not going to have baths every night. We're not going to have perfect meals every day. There's going to be those things. And I was okay with it. Like, that was the thing. Like, I think my standards at some points were like, okay, if I had a new baby and it meant the toddler was watching Ms. Rachel or whatever that was at the time too much,
Mm.
I was like, that's okay. It's for, as Libby says, it's for a season. It's not forever. We're not in our best place. So I just was like okay with things not being perfect. I was okay with the house not being clean, the kids not being clean, like whatever. The most important things were, things that everybody was healthy, everybody was happy, that our relationships were okay and that we were doing the do, but I wasn't really, and I think part of it was really just being like, I'm really not that important. And, I make labels and raise average kids. Like, I don't think that I'm really that special. Like, we're all just doing the same thing and it's wonderful. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, it's life, man. We're all doing it, right?
No, I would like to just, you made a
Yeah.
mistake. Your labels are important because if my kid
Oh,
doesn't go
no.
to school with your labels, I am in trouble. So they are important. But I like, thank you for saying this. I think with my first, like, it was like the bath every night and all of these things like you have to do. We're not watching TV until this time. And then the second came along and I was like, everything goes out the window because you're just like in
Yeah.
survival mode. And I was
Yeah.
like, my business needed me way more now than it needed me right at the beginning. And I just feel like I'm so grateful for you saying that because I feel like people who are listening right now need to hear that. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay if like the TV's on a little bit longer than you think it is. It's
Yeah.
okay
If
if
you're
they're
ordering
not.
pizza 3 times a week, who cares? I used to always say this, like in my blogs and in the early days, I'm like, the pool is opened. That's the end of bathing season. Baths again in October. Like that was
Yeah.
my honest motherhood.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you too. And it's partly for me, one of the questions I never ask celebrities or anybody is how do you balance it all? Because there's no such thing as balance. Sometimes
No.
your career's number one, your family's down
Yeah.
here, it's vice
Yeah.
versa. It just trades and it just becomes its own balance in its space. But I think for me, it's especially now my kids are a little bit older. I love saying to women, especially mothers, it's okay to make yourself a priority. I think when you find that space of understanding you're allowed to have time for yourself, you're allowed to do things for yourself, I think things change. You don't get as overwhelmed because you feel stronger. You feel like you're in a space where you can handle everything, anything that comes towards you. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to say on social media, whatever it is. People are like, how do I'm like, that's what it is. When I'm in the gym, my kids know for that hour I'm not available. I got to lift that bar, and that's the priority for me. And now I see my kids working out. So there's a reflection of what I've been doing that they're picking up that are good things for them as well. So it's that's I think the guilt. The minute you have a child, the guilt is built on your shoulder. The minute you're everything is about the child. But I think through that priority is so important to understand you belong and that you're important. So that's really what I want to say to
Yeah.
moms.
Go ahead, Libby.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, that has been like the lesson of my life. I feel like
Yeah,
there's like the world's messages that say, "Oh, your kids need to be your number one priority," and mom comes at the bottom of the list, and you get scraps. When really it should be the flip side, because in order to
yeah,
be the present, whole, well mom that you need to be, you need to feel like a whole person outside of motherhood, and you need to be able
hmm,
to rest and to sleep and have time to yourself. And that's going to help you to show up better as a mom in your business everywhere. So
yeah.
just agreeing.
And
Yeah.
I think too, we also have to understand that everybody's got different like capacity levels, right? And everybody's got different, and that's okay. Because I remember people being like, Julie, you need more me time. And I'm like, I'm actually okay. Like for me,
Hmm.
talking to you guys is me time. For me, going in the
Yeah.
basement, making
Yeah, you
maple while
find
people
what
are
it is.
sleeping.
Yeah.
So we all have different ideas of what works for us, and that's okay. Like we just, there's no judgment for, there's no perfect way, there's no right way. It's just whatever
Yeah.
works for
It's
you,
it's
right?
figuring out what works for you. And I think also
Yeah.
like something I wish I saw more in the online space is mothers, whether it's like influencers, entrepreneurs, sharing more about the support systems we have, right? Like, the influencer who has a nanny. That's amazing that you have a nanny. Let's talk about that. I have a cleaner. I try to like talk about it every once in a while, like, oh, the cleaner's coming today, or that my
Mm.
partner is supportive, or people who have like parents who are really supportive. That's something that I feel like we don't really talk about nearly enough, and it contributes to a
Agreed.
lot of women and mothers, entrepreneurs especially, looking online and seeing what we do and being like, oh my gosh, how do you do it all? And you know what, like, yeah, we are kick-ass, we do work hard, we do care about our businesses, and being able to shine a light on like, hey, I get support here, or I get support there, or I hire this out, or I outsource this. It helps to not only like normalize asking for help, but helps people to see that no, you're not nailing it in every area of your life, and maybe you are nailing it in this area of your life because grandma's coming to watch the kids every Tuesday night, and so I think it's really important to normalize talking about the support we get for so many reasons.
So funny, Libby. Like I got a nanny. I was really late to the nanny game and it was stupid. Like I got a nanny when my fifth kid turned one. That was way three kids too late. And I remember when Nanny Hazel started with us, and fun fact, she's still here. When they grew up and she moved out, she got homesick and moved home. But she,
Oh,
I know, she's Tita.
yeah.
So yeah, but it was funny because I would talk about her, and then you get people like saying, "Must be nice to have somebody
Yeah.
raising your children," and I'm like, this is so funny because I'm like, don't work. How are working moms supposed to work without childcare? It was remarkable. The other thing, and I love that, Libby, about normalizing it. And the other thing that I think doesn't get enough attention, and I'm sure Libby, this can relate to you. We talk a lot about like privilege, right? Like we'll talk about privilege in traditional senses like money or culture or whatever. I think what is super underplayed is the privilege of being raised by parents who can self regulate. And I was raised by parents who were emotionally intelligent, who were raised by good parents who, like, cared about them. And like all of that like set me up for this. So I'm always impressed when people like are, wow, you've done so much. I'm like, yeah, but I was equipped, man. I came into this knowing I could do whatever. I'm impressed so much with the people who, start the businesses or do the thing who don't come with that kind of privilege. And that's a privilege no one talks about.
Absolutely.
Amen. 1,000 amens.
We're all
We
nodding.
don't.
Every by the way,
Yes, like
just
we.
for people who are listening right now, everything that everyone else is saying, the three other people are nodding so heavily and we're
Hmm.
like, we
Yeah,
feel this so deeply.
we don't all walk into motherhood with the same nervous system, and then when, those of us who didn't have a great experience growing up or had, traumatic childhoods, you have to learn that in adulthood. You have to learn that in motherhood when you're already the most overwhelmed you've ever been. And so having to learn not only emotional regulation, but even, like in my journey I share about in my book is my journey to trusting myself and trusting my own judgment was really hard. I didn't have the opportunity to find myself or know myself before motherhood. And so having to then do that later in life is really, really hard. And so that's why I tell moms all the time, like, you cannot compare yourself to another mom, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a friend, whether it's another mom online, another entrepreneur. They have different kids. They have a different nervous system. They have a different support system. They have a different pocketbook. They have a completely different circumstances to what you're mothering in. And you have to decide based on your own actual real life how you're going to lower your expectations so that you can prioritize yourself, so you can show up in your life, in your motherhood, in your business, because no one else can do that for you. No one else can do that for you. And success for me is going to look different than success for somebody else who was set up with, supportive parents and, emotionally intelligent parents. My success is going to look different and it's going to feel different than somebody else's, and that's okay.
Yeah, and the comparison game is very tough to get out of, and especially as ambitious women who have kids, because even for me, like building my business, there are people around that are building faster, and they're doing more, they're able to do more travel, which accelerates their businesses faster. And it's hard not to compare and think, oh, well, if I didn't have kids, of course I would do that. Of course I could go travel. Of course I could expand to this city. And it's hard to not compare, but I think like when you do exactly what you just said, when you kind of sit in and you think about your life and your goals and like what you want out of your motherhood journey and your entrepreneurial journey, it's like, and you cut out all of the noise around, you really can like have more joy in your life and your journey because it's yours and it's yours only.
Yeah, and I think also on social media, you got to change the narrative of comparing to being inspired. I always say, why did you start following that person in the first place? And we fall into the space where we're like, why is she getting this? Why? The question should be, how did she get there?
Yeah.
And be
Yeah.
inspired by how does she
Mm,
do that? What do I
hmm.
need to implement for me to be that success? And that's how I see people. I follow women who, that's my people. Those are the people I'm like, she's here. How did she get there? So that comparison, again, you got to change that narrative in your head and say, how do I get inspired by this person and how does she get there? So that's the
Do you
other
feel
thing to
like in
learn.
media though, like Sangita, it's like there's a lot of like perfectionism though? Like, don't you feel like there's like in the industry that you're in, there is a lot of
Yeah.
like, we're not gonna like share the hard shit that we go through, and we have
That's
to
a
look.
really good question, Danny, because I came from an engineering background and I
Yes,
used
I
to be an
know
electrical
this.
engineer. And as an
Yes.
engineer, the thing you learn is to work as a team. The only way you can build that bridge is you work as a team. When I came into this industry, it's not that. It's everyone for themselves. And it was a massive learning curve for me. Uh, Perfection wasn't me. I got to where I was because of who I was. I don't have a background in journalism. So I was sharing what I knew. I knew how to be funny. I knew how to do interviews. I knew how to, there was a space that I just lived in. And I think ultimately for me has always been to bring joy. And it's cheesy as it sounds, there's so much shit happening in the world. I'm like, I want you to come here and feel some joy. I want you to feel there's a friendship, there's this space. So I came in with a different attitude. So that perfection didn't really touch me. I just kind of let me be me. And that worked for me through this industry. So yeah, it's that mentality as an engineer that I brought forward into this world. But yeah, Danny, it's been a that I was very gullible to that. And I definitely learned that there's a whole different game.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Do you think
Sure.
like, so in your experience, you didn't experience the perfectionism that Danny was talking about, but do you think in the industry in general, there is almost like this veil of performativeness that comes through, which can then make it hard to sort of, if you look up to someone, hey, I want to be inspired by you, it's hard to actually see the journey or see what got them to that place with the hardships, or whether it's the thing, their morning routine, whatever it is
It's a great
it's hard to
question.
see that when you look online or when you look at someone's career and you do see more of the highlight reel or others are being performative. How does that sort of intersect with yeah, what how we can be inspired by one another? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think partly as women, we know what's performative. I think we
Yeah.
kind of pick up on what's real and what's not. And so when I say inspiration, I follow women that I see that have worked hard. I see their hustle. I see how they made what they are to the point where they are right
Yeah.
now, right? So those are the women. The performative, you kind of pick up on what's happening there.
Yeah.
But even that could be an inspiration. It's like, okay, so they build a team of strong people around them. They're at this point. How did they get to this point? Who do they need to hire to get to this point? But I think that's what it is. Even when I see people who are just perfect on television, even that itself, I'm like, how do you do that? Well, I flub up all my words when I'm reading the prompter because I can't see half of the time. But you know what I'm saying? Like there are things that kind of go in my head. I'm like, okay. And the best part for me too is I've had directors who would take the time and say, do it this way. Maybe this will help. I don't take it as a criticism. I'm like saying, this guy's coming to take the time to tell me how to be better. And do I ever get better? Because they've been in the industry for so long. So it's almost changing that narrative of how you see things. So yeah, I live in a bit of a positive light and try to find what is that thing that got them there.
That's awesome. I also think that I think if you're on social media and you're scrolling and somebody makes
Yeah,
you feel bad and maybe thinks, makes you feel like not worthy, I think you need to take some time to unpack that and think, why do I feel jealous right now? Why is that green-eyed monster coming
yeah,
out? But until you do that work, maybe just curate your list, especially if you're in the throes of motherhood and you're feeling pretty rough anyway and you're
yeah.
sleep deprived, your hormones are messing around with you. Maybe just like curate a list that doesn't make you feel like a monster until you have time to kind of do that work or start wondering, asking yourself these questions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that's why it's one of like the many reasons I called my book Honest Motherhood, because I feel like for so long I just lived life on autopilot, like as a mom, trying to do
Mm,
everything and be what everybody else was. And oh, well, they bake and they do crafts and they do this thing and they, take their kid to the library every day. Like I'm gonna try and be all of them. And I wasn't being honest with myself about
mm,
what I wanted and needed and what I could do. And then also in the comparison game, I was looking at one piece of somebody's life, and whether it's being jealous of it or whether comparing myself to them or feeling bad about myself. And it wasn't until I started being like the practice of honesty, like you said, Julie, like you see a video, you stop and you like actually ask yourself, like, why is that triggering me? Like, why is that bothering me so much? Or you see a friend like share flippantly that they did, they went on this like Mexico vacation that you could never afford, whatever it is, like stopping and asking yourself, why does this bother me? And like maybe like what need of mine is being met. And maybe it's actually that you just need more time to yourself, or maybe it's that you really want to start a business and you've never actually been honest with yourself about that thing, or whatever it is. I feel like this practice of, like you said, Julie, stopping, being honest with yourself, and then kind of doing something pragmatic about it rather than just like spiraling in like a self-doom or like a resentment toward the world.
Okay, we all need to read your book. Where do we get Honest Motherhood, by the way?
uh
Everywhere.
all the places,
All the
Indigo,
places.
Amazon, Target. I don't know
oh,
where your listeners are from, but all the
My
places you can get
Okay.
books,
desk.
you can find it.
We're all picking up we're all picking up an Honest Motherhood book absolutely after this. Let me ask you all a question, and we'll end on a positive. But before we get there, there are really dark days of motherhood, and like we're talking about seasons. And I would love for you guys to share if there was like a moment of, that would help, other mothers out there feel less alone, because this is really what it's about too, of just something that's happened to you that was like, one of your darkest days of motherhood or darkest seasons of motherhood. And for me, I like immediately think about just recently, like having this like, you know, season of 3 months where I was really feeling like sandwich generation, like taking care of like a sick
yeah,
mom and like having two really small children at home. And it was probably like the most painful part of like my whole time as a mother. And didn't really have much to do with my kids. It was like the fact that I was like dealing with so much on my plate with like having my mom who was, not doing well and also like has, mental health issues, and there was a lot going on there. So I would love for you guys to share something similar where, and how you also came out of that time.
Yeah, I can start maybe. I guess for me, I think for any parent, when your child gets a diagnosis that you're not expecting, I mean, I was expecting it because I took him in for assessments and stuff. But when my son had just turned 3, he was diagnosed with autism and he already had 2 younger siblings. So it was pretty busy. And my sister described it as I had 1 minute of denial, a weekend of kind of mourning and wondering what this means. Will I ever be an empty nester? What's his, is he ever going to be social? Because I love social, like I love relationships. I love people. Will he ever love that? And then it was like, okay, down to work. And it was build a community, start programming, get connected, and like do all the things. And you know what? I do often joke on that I'll say on my deathbed that he's my life's greatest achievement, and the other five are okay too. But there's something very special about when you have a special kid, and that was tough times, and yeah, it was. But you get through it, and hey, look at him now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh.
This is
No,
why mothers need to like rule the world because like,
Don't
you
we?
know,
we can
Don't. I thought
figure
we
it out.
did.
We figure it all out.
no, we need to be like in all leadership positions. That's all I have to say.
Every
Sorry,
single one.
Sangita, go ahead.
Yeah, Danny, same thing. I'm in that sandwich situation right now, and probably the hardest time is right now, seeing my dad where he's going through and raising girls. But I remember there was a time, my first child, and we were doing the whole feeding schedule. We were just trying to make it all happen the way it's supposed to happen. And there was a moment she was just crying, and I found myself in a closet, in a dark closet, holding her. And I still remember the emotions. And I sat there for almost 2 hours holding her, and she was crying, and I lost who I was. I didn't know what was happening in the moment. It was tough. It was a tough moment, and I felt lonely. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know that moment, and yeah, it broke me. It broke me. And from that, Libby talking about being in a dark space, that was a dark moment for me, and I didn't stay in it long though. I learned to pull myself out because you don't have time as a mother. You don't have time to stay in that space. Um, but I still remember those emotions. And I also learned that I was able to teach myself how to get out of it as quickly as possible. And so when I went through my cancer, I first time dealt with death, never even thought about death. And I was okay because I knew my husband was there to take care of my kids. But I remember I went through all of it, went through the surgery, the radiation, all that stuff. And it wasn't until afterwards I had to deal with the emotions. And that was incredibly, I'm choking up, really hard. And but I've learned taught myself that I can't be there for too long. So I'll have my cry, I'll do my thing, and then get out of it as soon as possible. So yeah, I'm still going through all the different phases. I think we all have different chapters, but it's amazing how certain moments in your life you always feel that emotion again as older you get.
Hmm.
And that was one of them, and the other one was during my cancer journey. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
Thanks for
thank you.
asking that question, Daddy. You really appreciate
No,
it.
thank you for sharing that. Honestly, like it's
Yeah.
hard to like put yourself back in these situations, but I feel like when
Yeah.
we're vulnerable and we open up about these things, like so many people are like nodding along and feeling like, yes, like I can relate to
Yeah.
this and like,
Yeah.
in their own kind of way. Who and before I get to you, Libby, Singita, who was your support system during this time? Like who did you call and rely on for help?
And that's another thing I've learned is I've always been very independent since I was a little child, and I never asked for help. And my dad was very sick. It's the day I found out that I had carcinoma, the cancer I had, was the day my dad was having heart surgery on the fourth floor, and I had to go up on the seventh floor. So do I tell my family? Do I even, I didn't. And so I didn't ask for help. My husband was my core. I had two other friends that were my core, but I don't know how to ask for help. And that's something I need to learn. And I'm slowly understanding the importance of that. But you just don't want to be a burden to anyone. So my community was my best friend, and that's my husband and my two friends when I really needed a good cry. So yeah, yeah, that's a learning curve for me. That's for sure.
I think that's all of us. Like you feel like you're a burden if you reach out to a friend for help, but honestly, like when you think about your friends, wouldn't you want them to reach out to you and say, "I
Yeah.
need something, and I want, can we have a
You know
call? Can we
what?
have a coffee?"
I've
Right?
learned. Maybe I've kind of always been this way, but I'm actually radically honest about that. Somebody will be like, "Hey, I'm coming to your
Yeah.
party. Do you want me to bring something?" I'm like, "Yes, you bring the salad," or like,
Yeah.
or they'll be like, "What do you need for the baby? You're having a baby. What do you need?" And I'm like, "I need you to take the toddlers to the park this afternoon. Are you available?" Like, I'm just like, I will tell you what
Yeah.
I need. I have no problem asking for help, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
need to do that
Julie,
more.
we need to talk.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, it's true though. It's like a big
It's
deal
true.
to be able to ask for help and like tell us like someone specifically like that what you need. And like when people call like, "Oh, can we help you?" And you're like, "No, no, I'm
Start a
okay.
meal
Don't
train
worry."
for me. I would say start a meal train
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me.
outsource the
Yes.
mental labor of it, right? Rather than you
Yeah.
coordinating the meal train. Hey, can you be in charge of the meal train?
Of
I
course.
did that with
Yes.
my book launch actually. It was about 6 weeks before I was like having like a dark night of the soul where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I feel lonely. I feel isolated. There's so much. I have lots of friends asking me if they can help, and I'm so grateful for that. But like the labor of having to communicate to all these different people was so overwhelming me that I reached out to a friend and I was like, "Hey, can you take the part-time role of coordinating my friend group to coordinate the help that they're going to give me?"
Yeah.
And so my friend, my cousin Jackie, she started a group chat without me in it, and whenever I needed something, she would like find the person to do it, and that was like a lifesaver.
Oh my
Love
God,
Yeah.
Jackie.
I'm gonna do that for my co-founder, Victoria. That's such a great
Yeah.
idea. She's
Yeah.
pregnant
That's
and
great.
yeah, just starting a group chat and finding people in her network that can like help her.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Okay, and you were
Yeah.
gonna share also
Yeah.
a dark days moment, if you will.
Mm.
Yeah, I've had a couple in my life. So one of the stories I share in my book is called Granola Bars, and it was around the time that my kids were 2.5 and 4.5, and so a lot of work, a lot of mental load, a lot of just like day in, day out meals, snacks, get to work, get to preschool, all the things. My husband was a shift worker, so he was gone a lot of the time or sleeping when he wasn't gone because he worked a lot of night shifts and I have been in the sandwich generation since I was 11 years old. I mean, I was a parentified child, and so I have cared for both of my parents for a long time. My dad was illiterate and deaf and didn't work, and my mom had some undiagnosed mental health disorders for a very had has for a very long time. And so at this point in time, when I had a 2 and a 4-year-old, I was also caring for my mother regularly most days and working part time and going to school part time. And my son was in speech therapy multiple times a week. And so I was not busy at all, not overwhelmed. I was very, very,
Yeah.
very overwhelmed. And every day was basically just survival mode. And on this particular morning, my husband was sleeping because he had worked shift work. It was my job to get the kids out the door to school and preschool. And, just those mornings when nothing goes right, where like,
Yes.
the 4-year-old had peed the bed, the 2-year-old needed something, and I was trying to get what he was saying and I couldn't understand him. He slapped me in the face and I didn't slap him back. Um, and but I could feel this like rage and resentment like building inside of me where I'm like, we have to get out the door. Nobody's eating their breakfast. Like somebody's forgotten a shoe. Do we have the things we need? I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to be embarrassed. Like all of just this like stress building, all the things I hadn't
Yeah.
done and all of that. And so we get out the door, but the kids hadn't eaten breakfast. So I get breakfast. So I give them both a granola bar and get in the car and I just say like, give mommy a minute to make a phone call and then we can talk kind of thing because I had to call a babysitter. And of course when you say like please give me mommy a moment, that to your children sounds like let's just make as much noise as possible. And so then my nervous system is just not well and my son starts saying something that I can't understand and I just say just wait a minute buddy, and he starts crying and like it gets louder and louder. I feel my nervous system bubbling up. My daughter is kicking my seat, and I'm like trying not to drive into oncoming traffic. And we're late, and the phone's ringing. And so I finished leaving the message, and it just continues. And I can't turn around because I'm driving. But we end up coming to a stoplight, and I just like slam on my brakes, and I turn around, and I just scream like "shut up!" and like all the things that like I kept inside for so long that I hadn't said out loud, all the rage that I sort of
Yeah.
internalized just sort of came out on my kids. And I entered motherhood with like a deep desire to be everything that I didn't have growing up and to be safe and to be calm and regulated and to always be the person that like quelled their fears and was a safe place. And so in that moment when I turned around and looked at their face and saw the fear in their eyes, fear that I had seen them experience for other things in their life, whether it's like a dark shadow in the corner or, anything else, that our kids are afraid of that I normally would soothe them for. And I saw their fear, but it was of me. That was one of like I tear up even thinking of that because I'll never forget the feeling of shame that I felt
Yeah.
just wash over me that I could be the source of fear for them, that I would yeah, that my anger was so big and so loud and so scary that they were afraid of me. And my son just handed me his crinkly granola bar wrapper that I hadn't opened, and he just signed open. And that for me was, they weren't trying to be difficult. He just wanted to eat his breakfast. And that was one of my darkest moments. I mean, like most moms have yelled at their kids at some point or another or every day. And so I'm not, it's not that I think that my experience is particularly unique. It's just that I think that's my experience. That's one moment that I will never forget, the fear
Yeah.
that they felt and the shame that I felt. And that really instigated a lot of like my deep healing work and learning how to regulate and learning to prioritize myself and learning to realize that I needed to have the capacity to mother during moments of stress, because there's always going to be moments of stress in motherhood, that it was my job to figure out what I had to let go of so I could get the capacity to mother them well. But that was a turning point moment for me where I was like, I do not want to be the thing that you're afraid of.
Mm.
And so that's my very honest, real moment of rage and shame and all the things that come from that.
Thank you for sharing. We're all nodding along. We've all been somewhere similar, like it feels like we all go
Yeah.
through similar things in very different ways, but it's the
Hmm.
same feeling at the end of the day. And
Hmm.
I mean, it's a great segue because, like, you're all so amazing and you've gone through so much, and there's just layers upon layers. We could sit here for a few hours and keep talking, but really, you're also incredibly optimistic women, which I love. And you're really like hopeful and you share a lot of joy. Like I love being a part of your communities, like when you were talking about, at the beginning of this social media, and it really like is about bringing your communities together and like following people that you love and inspire you. Like that's what you guys are for me. So, and I'm only one person. So just think about the impact that you're making, which is incredible. For, to wrap things up, there's so many ambitious, career driven moms who are listening who are at all different phases. Maybe they are on their way to motherhood or they're in the thick of it, or they're in later in life. What's one thing that you would want them to know today?
I guess I'm going to say something that my grandma Lion said to me growing up. And, I had this granny. She died at 101. She was one of 21 kids. She was an old Irish granny. Anyway, and she would say this, that it made you feel so worthy that you deserved all the things, but also it kept you humble. And she would say, you're as good as the rest of them and better than none.
I love that. It's so true.
I feel like I would say that to any mom, any woman listening to this, that you know so much more than you give yourself credit for. It's easy to look out at the world and think that everybody else has the answers or they have it figured out. And yes, we can be inspired by other women, and that's how, in many ways, I've been inspired by other women, and I've taken that on my own journey. But for me, I had to learn to trust myself and realize that I am on my own journey, that I know more than I give myself credit for. And based on the real, actual, true things about my life and my circumstances, I get to decide what my next right step is. And I used to look at that as a burden, that like, oh my gosh, why do I have to figure it out? But I now look at it in a really hopeful way that's like, oh, I actually have autonomy. I have the information about my life that nobody else has. And I get to decide what's next. And I get to listen to my gut, and I get to trust whatever that little voice inside of me is saying, and do the next right thing. There's no one perfect path. We'll make a decision, and then whatever happens from that, we'll make the next decision. And it's a really empowering thing to realize that you can trust yourself and you can make your next right decision. And that's usually the best way forward anyway.
Mm, beautifully said.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the both of you. It's I discovered something called, I call it core joy. And what that is, there's happiness and there's joy. Happiness is the thing that happens, pay off your mortgage or whatever it is. But core joy is something that nobody can touch. And I learned that from my dad. I was sitting with my dad and we were about to lose him. And he said, think about everything we've gone through to this point, all the happiness. And I'm like, yeah, no one can touch that. That joy's always, if my dad passes away, I still have that. That core joy, that feeling that nobody else can break me. I try to get rid of that noise in my head. And this is going to sound pretty simple, but life is fucking precious. And you have a limited time. What are you going to do with it? find that joy, feel that joy as much as you can. The things are going to happen. We're going to shout at our kids. We're going to do this, but let it go. Let's just move on to the next thing. And it's simple to say, but there's so much importance to that. And I've learned that, life is going to be shortened for me because I went through my current cancer journey. So what am I going to do with it? What am I going to play with it? Right. So I think that's what it is. It's really finding that space that brings you joy with your kids and your family and all of that. So yeah, I go to that. There's so many lessons in life, but I think it's truly you are in control of your happiness at the end of the day.
I love
I
that. And
love
I also
that.
think, like, one last thing I'd like to say is that, that mom guilt stuff, like, I gave it up five
Yeah.
kids ago. It's just, it's not useful. It's not proactive.
No.
We all make mistakes. When you make a mistake, like, I make mistakes all the time. And I say to my kid, hey, you know what? This is what happened. I would do it differently next time. I repair it. Then they learn that mistakes aren't anything you should be ashamed of. Apologizing is
Yeah.
good, and repair is where it's at. So I don't have kids who lie to me. I don't have kids who hide things because, it's okay to make mistakes. And why would I carry that around? And if I start feeling that little pang of guilt, it's like, well, maybe I need to make a change. Maybe it's just a little sign of something. But don't let that stuff don't let it live
No.
rent free in
Yeah,
your
well,
brain.
and you already have like such little capacity as it is, so why waste
Right?
it on the guilt? Do the
Right?
pragmatic thing, apologize, I'm
Move
sorry, I
on.
acted shitty, I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
differently next time. Now let's go do
Yeah.
something fun. Like
Yeah. I mean,
let's go
I
ride our
left my
bikes.
child.
Like let's
Yeah.
like
I was gonna say I left my child at school one day. I did grocery shopping. I felt so good and proud as a mother. I'm like, I feel like I forgot something. I got a call from the teacher. I left the kid at school. So like those, you gotta let that shit go.
You know what,
Let it
too?
go.
Like,
they're
it's
fine.
Let
hilarious.
it go.
At
It's
the end of the
resilience
year,
building and they need it.
I
Yes.
always at the end of the year did my mom fails of that year, and my kids loved gathering around. And Posey was like, "Remember that time you were supposed to pick me up at the airport and you got your AM and PM mixed up?" They'd all gather around and talk about all my fails that year, and it would go into a wonderful
Oh
blog post
man.
out to the world.
That's amazing.
Oh.
And like laughing about all of this is part of the medicine and part of, I
Right.
love
Oh
that
gosh,
idea
is
of
it ever?
core, I love that idea of
Joy.
core joy. That's so beautiful and it resonates with me so hard. And it's like also about finding like the joy in the mundane because like for
Yeah.
me, it's like Groundhog Day. Like my kids go to bed and they wake up at the same time. It's not like we have weekends where like everyone gets to sleep in. Like that's not the stage or the season I'm in yet. So like it's how do
Yeah.
you find the joy in the like the mundane and like in the daily small things and the daily small wins. So I love that.
Kate Bowler just released a book called Joyful Anyway,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so good. And it was reminding me of what you were saying about core joy, and I just feel like everybody needs to read it. It's really
Yes.
about like
Yeah.
making space and finding moments for joy in and amongst all of life's hardships. Like you
Yeah.
can still be joyful anyway. It's such a good book.
Oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
especially in your 40s, I feel like there's some kind of space that you get into. I mean, I don't know what age you guys are, but
Yeah,
going even through the perimenopause, going through all of it, there's something about owning yourself that happens in your 40s, and
yeah,
it's very powerful. And I'm at that stage right now, so it's pretty
Mm,
incredible.
I love
yeah.
that. I hear 40s are
Oh,
the best, so can't wait.
I also hear
Um,
yeah,
that. I also hear that.
you guys are babies, huh? Am I the oldest one here? I think so.
no, Julie's in her 40s. Julie's got
Julie,
six.
Julie.
She's in her 40s.
The thing I loved about Mother's Day was it was like the one day where I'd have my little sleep in. So I'd be like lying in bed awake, waiting for my cold tea and my bad toast. And I'd hear Daddy O downstairs fighting for his life.
Yeah,
Once
it's
a
just like
year,
put it
because
all on deck.
it
Once a
was
year.
all hands on deck, mostly run our place
Yeah,
for a little bit.
Right.
absolutely.
Like, yeah.
And I was just going to say, for me, I think one of the things that I'd love to leave everyone with too, um, for all the, women out there who have big dreams and, want to make a big life, people are always like, yes, you can have it all, or no, that's such a farce and you can't have it all. And that's just, that's lies. And I kind of say that, yes, you can have it all. It comes with trade-offs and seasons and dropping balls in various parts of your life at different times. But I think if you have really big dreams and you also want to be an incredible mother, it's absolutely possible. And I want people to know that. So, again, like everything that you guys have said has resonated so much. Thank you for being an inspiration to like all the other amazing moms out there, I want to wish you all a very, very happy Mother's Day. And I just want to say thank you for like sharing so vulnerably and like being so honest about motherhood, and keep doing it because it's amazing. And, you're spreading so much light and joy in people's lives. So thank you. And thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having me.
having us. Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day to everyone. And we'll see you on the next one. Love today's episode? Hit subscribe and share it with a friend who'll love it too. For more jam-packed episodes and to connect with me, head to dannykagan.com. And hey, the best way to support the show? Leave a 5-star review for me so we can help more people like you raise it up.